Hello and welcome to Rockies Recap. My name is Steven. Right there is co-host Tom. I am saying hello from the wonderful world of Camino. Because today we got a bunch of rain. I want to say like close to an inch, a couple inches of rain. In Colorado, after several weeks, we got nothing. And if you live in Colorado like I do, you know that we've been desperate for rain because of the wildfires. And by the way, I just want to say a quick shout out to all the firefighters out there for handling these fires. It's not an easy job, but yeah, I'm enjoying my time here in Camino / Loveland, Colorado. Tom, how are you doing? How are you doing?
It's not raining as much as it is as you speak of in Colorado, but all in all, I'm doing pretty good, thank you. It's a lot of changes. One big change happened this morning, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. Um, we're not going to talk much about the Mets and Rockies series because I'm sure most of you guys, watched the games, watched our or looked at our posts on Instagram, Twitter /X, and Threads. But the Rockies, they lose 2 out of 3 against the Mets, and I was talking to Tom, but this was very much kind of like the series against the Padres, to where we just saw. Um, very much the same. Game one, good game one, kind of like in San Diego. We won that game. And then today, um, you know, game one against the Mets was good. Jake Cave got that opposite field home run. It was a huge 2-run home run into left field, just barely got over the wall. Victor Vodnik nailed down that save. That was great. He looks really good to start the year. After game one, it was like, okay, we can, good to be back home, and let's kind of get some wins together because the Rockies have um, a pretty tough schedule coming up against the Atlanta Braves, who, by the way, have struggled. I think they just got swept by Milwaukee. They're not playing very well. As a matter of fact, if you look at the standings, the Braves, hard to believe it or not, but the Braves are not in a playoff spot right now, which is, kind of shocking, but not, especially with all the injuries that they've suffered this year. I mean, come on, with Acuna, league, MVP, almost every, finalist year in, year out. They've had a lot of, players not really performing to the level that they've wanted. I feel like their only good hitter, this year has been Austin Riley. Marcell Ozuna has been there. And then after that series against the Braves, the Rockies traveled to Arizona. In Arizona, we know how hot they've been over the last week or so. Ever since the All-Star break, they've been playing great baseball. So, really, this series was an opportunity for the Rockies to, I don't know, just get some momentum under their feet a little bit and play good baseball, play good, defense, hitting, pitching, all the good stuff, and all the under all that, yeah, all the good stuff, and everything underneath that. um Game two was turning out to be a pretty good game. It was a 2-2 game for for basically the entire game. Ezekiel Tovar got a home run early in the game that bounced off the Bridich barrier, as we call it here in Colorado. Jeff Bridich, for those why we call it Bridich, the Bridich barrier in right field. When Jeff Bridich was the GM, he petitioned to have the right field fence near the bullpen and all the way out to the forest out there in center field built that barrier to kind of lower the home run rates at Coors Field. Um, so yeah, that's why we call it Bridge Barrier. Well, anyway, not Doyle, Tovar got a home run, and I believe that was his 19th of the year. So I believe Doyle and Tovar and I think Toglia are all tied with 19 home runs in the year. But yeah, I mean, yesterday's game was turning out to be a great game. Going to the ninth inning, it was 2-2. Victor Vodnik comes in, gets the out, then gives up a couple walks. But Tom, and for those who are watching, I'm sure you guys can somewhat agree, especially if you're watching or listening to the game on the radio. But there was a lot of weird calls by the home plate umpire, and this had to be his first year as an umpire. And by looking at it, he looked pretty young, and he made a lot of questionable calls, and that's being nice because one of the calls in the previous inning to Ryan McMahon was a strike three call, which was not even close to the strike zone. It was, maybe a little bit off, but Alvarez, the catcher for the Mets, who is a pretty good framer. He's young, again, frames very well. Another guy that reminds me, that frames very well is William Contreras of the Brewers. He frames very well. Both Contreras brothers frame very well. But anyways, it was called strike three. McMahon was not happy. He cussed out the umpire a little bit. And so, yeah, it was just a bad call all around. And then going to the top of the ninth inning, Vodnik comes in, gets the out, but again, walks a couple. And a lot of those, balls that were called on Vodnik or to Vodnik, I should say, were strike. They should have been strike calls. They were at the bottom of the zone. They were right in there. But you kind of could see where he could have gone with balls. But again, they were very, very close. It's just like you got to give it to him because I feel like that umpire was giving the Mets a bunch of good calls last night. Um, it just felt that way. And then the Mets, they loaded the bases. Lindor gets up. He drives in two, and then the Mets score another run, making it a 5-2 game. And the Rockies did score one run in the ninth inning with the Toglia triple, and then I think there was a sac fly in there as well. I think Doyle was um, he got a sac fly there, so it was a tough game to watch really on game two. And it was just like, man, darn it, that should have been a win. It was just like we'll get him tomorrow. Well, and then today came, and it was just like you kind of knew that this was going to be an ugly one today. Like I said, in Denver and in Colorado, it was a rainy gloomsy day, and it was just not good to be a Rockies fan. Period. Mets, they blow the Rockies out 9-1. And it was really, like I said, very much like the Padres series in San Diego. And we have Albert in the comments on Instagram. He's in San Diego. He's a big Rockies fan and a Chris Bryant fan. So Albert from Instagram, hello. But yeah, it very much reminds me of the Padres series, to where, the Rockies had a good start, won game one, close in game two, and then get blown out in game three. So again, we're kind of seeing the same thing. And it's at this point, it's like, man, it's you want to see better baseball from the Rockies, and we're just not seeing it.
Well, at least you didn't have to go through. Well, of course, as we talk about game two, at least you didn't have to go what happened with LA, where umpire call actually blew the entire game for the Dodgers. So the
Mhm.
Rockies are unfortunate recipient of human error that does happen on occasion, particularly with umpires. So I haven't looked into how progressive, or actually, I should say how good or bad the automated strike zone is going down in AAA. I have to check into that, see how that's going. But anyway, um, yeah, game one was a heck of a. I love watching the finish. My guy Vodnik slamming the door, because that was exciting ninth inning. Considering the fact is that there was a chance there was that play at first that almost got called back for the double. It was called a double play, but then Bader was called safe at first, but didn't matter. Vodnik nailed it down, so that was good. Now, like I said, it's just one of those series where you're trying to play spoiler because the Mets are right going into the series. I think they were half a game behind the Braves, I believe. I think it was half a game out of that final wild card spot. Now they've taken it from the Braves. I got to tell you, this looks like it is going to almost for certain be the break the Braves 6-year streak of winning the NL East. Looks like the Phillies are going to win their first one in quite some time, because last six have been the Braves, then the Nationals. And I think the Phillies last time they won, I believe, was 2000. I think it was 2009 or 2008 was their last division championship. But either way, enough talking about that. But again, tough series. You want to play spoiler, but it's just a series that the Rockies just, I don't want to see them at times seem lackluster, especially for today's game.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, again, it's nice to see Jake Cave come through in game one. Again, he's kind of come through for the Rockies in big moments, and he did that in game one. We're still seeing the young guys grow. Tovar, Doyle, like I think somebody in the comments on Instagram mentioned Doyle.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, uh, oh, thank you, Albert. Thank you for watching the show. Um, but yeah, like Doyle, he's grown. We're seeing that, which is great. It just is sad to see, Aaron Schunk, not doing well. And I understand he's not playing every day, but
Mhm.
because he can, because you got Rogers there. But Schunk, no offense, we love Aaron Schunk, but he's just not going to be a starter in the league by any means, and neither is Hilliard. I think Hilliard, we talked about him. We love
Mhm.
Hilliard, but he's a 4A guy. And unfortunately, again, no offense to anybody on this Rockies team, but the Rockies have a lot of 4A guys, and we're just kind of waiting for the first batch of really good prospects to come up through the Rocky system, and they're getting close. I mean, again, Jordan Beck is is very close to coming back. Again, I think the Rockies want to have him play a little bit longer in Albuquerque, just make
Mm.
sure his wrist injury is good. Because the worst thing is that he comes back, re-injures it, goes back on another IL stint. Because talking about injuries, which we'll get to in a second, you don't want that to happen, especially with Chris Bryant, who, by the way, has, over the last, I don't know, 3, 4 games, he's played, decently, not great, but decently, where he's getting on base a couple times each game. I think he got a hit in every single game of the series, and I think in games 1 and 2, he got 2 hits, and I think one of them was a double. So that's good to see, and he's driving in, some runs, some RBIs. So that's good to see from Chris Bryant, but yeah, at this point, you don't want to see some of your prospects get injured, or anybody get injured for that matter. And that's why we're going to quickly get into some of the injuries that have happened over the last few days for the Rockies. Um, so where can I start? Okay, like the big news, I guess, is Herman Marquez. So today, again, you can check out our Instagram page and Twitter for Rockies news. Herman Marquez. The Rockies are shutting him down for the year, and I think this is the right move. This is something that we both mentioned, both Tom and I mentioned a few weeks ago on, I think, on our podcast or some recap, to where we were discussing about Marquez, with his Tommy John and getting re-injured, and it's thankfully it's not a serious one. It's just more of a flare up, and the Rockies, I think they noticed that, and they're like, you know what, at this point, we love Marquez, but we're not going to win anytime in the next year, probably, maybe next. I mean, maybe we'll see something happen next year, but if we need him for next year in 2026, he needs to be healthy. And so why not just shut him down? Because this year is a lost season. Just shut him down. And I think it was the right move. And I'm glad the Rockies, good job for the Rockies to do that, because, even though it's painful, we want to see Marquez pitch out there. And, it's the right move. It's the right way to go. And then Kyle Freeland, I believe it was game 1, was removed in the fourth inning, I believe, fourth or fifth inning. It was his it was fourth inning or fifth, fifth. Okay. Um, and by the way, for Marquez, it was a stress reaction on his elbow, and thankfully, again, it wasn't necessarily close to his surgery site or where he had a surgery, so that's positive. But for Freeland, it was I believe it was a blister, so doesn't seem to be too serious, but he might miss one start. But again, thankfully not too serious. But other than that, Freeland's been great. And then Peter Lambert, apparently he got injured today. Not sure if we have any more details on that. So again, there's been some injuries coming around for some of the Rockies pitchers, and you don't like to see that. At this point, again, just finish out the last 2 months of the season, strong. Seeing guys from Tanner Gordon has been great. We both talked about him in the last series, how he pitched very well in Game 2 against San Diego. So you just want to hope that the Rockies can finish strong without much injuries on the roster, especially to their pitching. Um, yeah. So again, it's a tough time, here in Colorado for a lot of Rockies fans. But you know what? I'm excited because the Rockies, they are going to be building around Brenton Doyle Tovar, who has already been signed to that, 7 to 8 year extension. Nolan Jones, question mark. And, we do have a comment here on Instagram. What's the latest on Nolan Jones? Perfect timing. Nolan Jones, I believe he was on injury rehab, but I think he has some time off because I think he and his wife just had their first child. So congratulations to Nolan Jones. So he should be coming back on rehab very, very soon. I think he should be fine. But, both Tom and me were talking about Nolan Jones before we started tonight, that, I think he'd be a very strong candidate, comeback player of the year candidate in 2025. It just feels right. And I think we're starting to see that Nolan Jones was, I think, pressured quite a bit coming into this year to perform well for the Rockies, because a lot of people saw him as a superstar. I don't necessarily, think that he'll be superstar level, but I think he could definitely be a really good player for the Rockies in the moving forward in the future and playing left field. So he'll definitely be one to watch. Before we end tonight's show, let's talk about one of the biggest news of the day coming out of MLB. Let's talk about Tom's other favorite team, the White Sox, firing their manager, Pedro Gafol. So, Tom, take it away.
Excuse me there. just kind of as real quick, just let me make us. There's of course a recent couple of days ago, Patrick Saunders of the Denver Post put out a interesting interview article about Nolan Jones, how this year's been a grind for him. So if anybody wants some wants to hear some good and some a look into the mind or current season of Nolan Jones, because like I said, yeah, he was pegged to be a potential superstar. It's been a tough year, which guys have. Sophomore years can be tough for most top tier prospects. So yeah, after a abysmal season so far, including tying the record for most consecutive losses in the American League with 21, the White Sox this morning dismissed manager Pedro Grifol. This was his second season with the Chicago White Sox. He was hired from Kansas. He was with the Kansas City Royals for a number of years. He served as the catching coach, one of the catching coordinators. He was a hitting coach and the bench coach at a couple points in time. But yeah, he was not retained by Kansas City after Matt Quatraro hired an entirely new staff there after coming over as the new manager from the Rays. So the Whites, I guess people often ask me, how did this guy get the job? Because people think he just looks so incompetent. And I said, well, reports of what I found out, he blew away Jerry Reinsdorf, Kenny Williams, and Rick Hahn. Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn being the former front office executives. So apparently he just interviewed very well. He blew him away, and that does happen with a lot of people. There are people who are great interviewers, but when it comes to the actual job on the job, not so much. I will say I think Pedro's bigger failures were last year in 2023 when he had a little bit more of a team that could be somewhat competitive, and that thing just fell off the rails. And then this year, I mean, just I need to tell anybody, just look at the current record now. I mean, they don't even have 30 wins now, not even 30 wins, and we're past the All-Star break here. And of course, it was, what was it? It was not yesterday. It was Tuesday. I was up late night listening to the game over in Oakland. And when that final pop fly hit Andrew Benintendi's glove, I thought, yes, please, it's over. It is over. Yeah. Finally, it was their first win since July 10th. Yes, let me repeat that. Before the All-Star break, July 10th was their last win prior to Tuesday. I mean, you want to talk about frustration and everything. If anybody wants my opinion as to what I think of this hiring and firing, I suppose, again, I wasn't in the interview. I don't know how well he did when it came to answering questions and putting together how he would be a good fit. They hired him. It was a bad hire, and he contributed to what are some of the big problems with that organization, which ultimately starts at the top. If they want any actual realistic progression and change to really happen, Jerry Reinsdorf needs to, like a number of other owners, needs to exit stage right, sell the team, just enjoy the rest of your life, and just get out of Chicago. Because if you look at the Bulls, same thing. They are mired in mediocrity. But anyway, and I will say this, people complain about Dick Monfort. I will say he is a better owner than Jerry Reinsdorf. Be thankful you're not me and have him as the owner of the White Sox. So again, and also just to keep on, the White Sox also dismissed 3 other coaches. It was bench coach Charlie Montoya, third base and infield instructor Eddie Rodriguez, and assistant hitting coach Mike Tozar. And the reason for that was because they were Pedro's guys, you could say his pals that he brought with him on board from Kansas City. Well, not Charlie Montoya. They just knew each other previously. He is the former Blue Jays manager. And now you got former top 100 prospect and Cleveland now Guardians, then Indian star Grady Sizemore. He actually had quite a career. He played, let me just double check here, make sure I get the years right. He played a 10-year career, and there were 2 seasons in 2006, 2007. He played all 162 games. He's a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove winner, and a Silver Slugger. He has no managerial experience, but again, at this point, I'm not, Grady, if you listen to my words, I'm not trying to knock on you here, but I wish you the best of luck. This is a very challenging situation. You're auditioning for other teams because I don't think again, not knocking on Grady Sizemore, but I don't think the White Sox are going to retain him as the official manager. If they do, I will be shocked. So all in all, we'll see. It's it was a long time coming, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, because again, thank you guys for watching. My laptop battery is about to die on me here. But anyways, quick mention that Ryan Feltner did also go to the IL. So it was a shoulder lap problem. So keep an eye on that. Hopefully it's not too serious, but Ryan Feltner is also heading to the IL. Just thought I would mention that because I forgot. But thank you for the person for mentioning that in the comments on Instagram. So thank you for that. You get a cookie. So
Keep up and on everybody. Picks to click. Keep bringing them in. Everybody. Picks to click is a fun thing. I'm currently on a losing streak with that. I am on a cold streak. I think I have not picked the last 5 or 6 correctly. I'm on a bit of a cold streak. I think I still lead Steven in our one-on-one scoring, I believe. We have to double check what the stats on that. So let's give Steven a second here while he kind of gets his laptop working. He was again low on battery. But yeah, hold on. Just give me one moment. He sent me a text message. Oh, okay. Anyway, so Steven's laptop, I guess the battery died. So I'm going to end this episode for us. So anyway, everybody, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Rockies Recap. Be sure to check us out. We do post if you want to listen to the audio version, we do post on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you want to rewatch the video version, they are available on Twitter, X, and YouTube for you if you want to hear the audio and viewing. So be sure to check out that. So be sure you subscribe to all of our social media pages, our Instagram, Twitter, X, and our Threads page. We do post lineups, final scores, updates, news, everything Rockies. Check out our page. If you want to send us a question or just talk baseball, send us a DM to any of those private social media. We'll get back to you. Steven's, of course, his Twitter handle his Twitter handle's over there. Mine is just down here. If you want to follow me on Twitter, X, you want to send me a message, you want to talk baseball, it's no problem about that either. So be sure you subscribe, and also be sure you subscribe to our YouTube page for if you want to get updates on our recordings. Also, we do stream live on YouTube, Twitter, X, and Instagram. So anyway, our next recap will be on Sunday after the next Rockies series. I'm sorry, my brain is running amok. I can never remember the Rockies. Hold on. I guess, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the schedule, everybody. Today is the off day, so. Anyway, yes, I'm sorry. Next series it'll be a 3-game series against the Atlanta Braves. Game 1 for the Braves, it'll be Holmes versus Tanner Gordon for the Colorado Rockies. And game 2 will be Max Fried. I think this is making his return from the IL, and Cal Quantrill for the Colorado Rockies. And we have Kyle Freeland going to the mound, and the series tonight on Sunday is TBD for the Atlanta Braves. So be sure to check out our Rockies recap on Sunday for the recap of that one. It'll be sometime in the afternoon. We'll keep you posted on the time. So anyway, thank you for tuning in this episode of Rockies Recap. Have a good night. And as always, go Rockies.